In this video, I'll show you how to use a shoot-through umbrella to create 4 different looks in a small home studio. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And today I'm back in my small home studio and I'm going to show you how to create 4 different looks, but using just one shoot-through umbrella. They're the type with the white translucent fabric, and it's the sort of thing you might get as your very first light modifier. It was for me, it was this one right down here. It's well over 20 years old and it's still going strong. Now they come in a wide range of sizes, from small up to, in my studio, this one here, which is a 60-inch, 1.5 meter across wing-like umbrella. That means it's slightly cropped, so in my small home studio with limited ceiling height, I can get it just that bit higher, and it makes a bit more sense when I'm using a Speedlight with a rectangular front. At this point, I'd normally say, let's get a model in and get shooting, but we're not quite ready because we need to set up the Speedlight and umbrella. Now the Speedlight is on a 20mm zoom, but it's the distance from the Speedlight to the umbrella I'm most interested in. If you have it too close to the surface, you'll find you have a surprisingly small light source. However, if you have it too far back, well then light can go past the edges and that can cause problems too. The best thing is to photograph the surface of your umbrella and then adjust the distance until you have most of it filled with light. Once you've got that, put a little mark on the shaft of your umbrella and then you can quickly set it up again in future. Now remember, light from a shoot-through umbrella goes in 2 directions. It will go through, but it will also bounce off. And light that bounces off will bounce around your room and, well, let's just say these umbrellas aren't the most directional. But with that in mind, they are still really good light modifiers. So let's get the lights set properly, let's get a model in, let's get shooting. So to help me out today, I've got the amazing Charlotte. Charlotte is going to be the model for this shoot, and the first setup with the umbrella that I'm going to do has the umbrella set way over there. In fact, it's so far away you can't actually see it in the video, but trust me, it's around about 12 feet from the model. Now, having the light that far gives the light some interesting properties. So I've already worked out the metering. I know what that is. All I need to do is take a shot. So Charlotte, if you're ready. Okay, let's take a test photo. Here we go. And when I do that, we can see a couple of interesting things. Let's start with the shadow behind Charlotte. There is a definite shadow there, but the edges are nice and soft. Then there's the exposure across the scene. It's really even. Now the reason for those 2 things are all down to the distance of the umbrella. The further away I put it, the more even the exposure becomes across the scene. But the further away I put it, the smaller it is relative to the size of Charlotte, so the harder the shadows become. However, that evenness is really good news if you've got a subject that moves around, so children, animal, that kind of thing, or if we want to just shoot Charlotte but not have to remeter, which is exactly what we're going to do. So Charlotte, if you're ready, let's take a few pictures. Here we go. That's great. Do you want to lean back against the wall right behind you? So as you can see, Charlotte can move pretty much anywhere in my studio, and the exposure, the lighting, everything stays the same, and I can move around, which is really handy. However, this is a very safe light. It isn't exciting or dynamic. We can do a little bit better than that. So for the second look, I've moved the umbrella much closer. In fact, now it's about 4.5 feet from Charlotte, more or less. That's going to have an impact on the style of light, but also the exposure. So let's work that out. Remember, I'm shooting at f4. I haven't changed the power from before. Charlotte, I'm going to pop this near your chin. But at this distance, it's gone up to f9, so more than 2 stops more light. I can wind the power down using the transmitter until I get to f4, and we're good to go. Okay, let's take this shot and see how the pattern of light has changed. Okay, Charlotte, here we go again. That's great. So this time the shadow next to Charlotte is much softer compared to the first setup. And that's because the umbrella is that much closer and therefore it is relatively larger in size. However, there's no real deep dark shadows anywhere across this scene because the shoot-through umbrella is bouncing light all around the room, and to a certain degree it's filling the shadows with light. So with that in mind, let's take a few pictures and see how they look. Charlotte, are you ready? Okay, here we go. So my third lighting position is with the umbrella really close to Charlotte. In fact, it's so close that I run the risk of it appearing in my frame, or worse, stabbing Charlotte, which is not something you ever want to do. But one of the advantages of a shoot-through umbrella is you can get the light that close to your subject. Now that will have a couple of impacts on the look of the shot, but also the exposure. Now remember, I'm shooting at f4, so let's see what we're getting at the moment. Charlotte, I'm going to pop this near your chin. And I'm getting, well, f8, so 2 stops extra light. I can dial that down, take the same test again. Now we're back to f4. Okay, so the light's correct. Let's see how it looks. I'll take a test shot. Here we go, Charlotte. Great. That looks absolutely fantastic. I love the light on Charlotte. When you have your modifier this close, it always gives great wraparound lighting. However, if I go out a little bit, then I would see the edges of the umbrella. Looking at the background, that's interesting too, because the umbrella being such a wide spread of light, so I'm lighting both Charlotte and the background with the single Speedlight. So the umbrella has lit Charlotte perfectly, but because it's so large and close to the wall, it's also put some light on that right-hand background. If I want to do a wider shot, I'll need to do a little bit of work in Photoshop. But there is one more way that you can use this umbrella and Speedlight to get a very different looking picture. And it makes use of the one thing I said not to do right at the beginning of this video. Because I'm going to slide the umbrella much closer to my Speedlight. So now this is a really small gap between the two. That's going to have a couple of impacts. The first one is it's now much further away from Charlotte than it was before, so I'm going to move this a little bit closer, a little bit lower down. And of course, it's going to affect my exposure. Get it back to f4. There we go, perfect. Okay. Let's take a test shot. Here we go. Effectively, I've reduced the size of the umbrella by just lighting a small part of it. That's made the light a bit harder on Charlotte, but also means it's not going to light the background so much. That's gone darker, but it's not completely black because once again, the shoot-through umbrella is bouncing light around my studio and a tiny bit will always reach the background. It's all down to the distance between the Speedlight and the surface of the umbrella. The closer they are, the harder the light. The further back they are, the softer the light. Shoot-through umbrellas are probably the cheapest light modifier that you ever buy, but they are incredibly versatile. For example, this one comes with a black outer cover, transforming it into a reflective umbrella. We'll cover those in another video. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. Click on the bell icon for regular notifications of all the brand new videos right here on Adorama TV. And of course, click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.